In the year 2147, Earth was finally at peace. After centuries of wars, nations had come together and formed one government, one voice, and one dream. People believed the future would finally be free of blood and division. A new flag of Earth was raised high above the United Nations Tower, and for the first time in history, every country saluted the same symbol. Factories no longer built tanks but starships. Scientists no longer raced to create weapons of mass destruction, but machines to heal disease and explore the stars. Children grew up believing the age of fear was gone forever. For a brief moment in human history, hope seemed stronger than war. But hope does not stop shadows, and peace does not stop an enemy that has already decided the fate of your world. It happened without warning. On a quiet morning, the sky above Earth darkened. At first, people thought it was a solar eclipse. Millions looked up at the heavens, seeing stars disappear behind a spreading wall of blackness. But soon they realized it was not nature, not clouds, not an eclipse. It was ships, thousands upon thousands of ships, filling the orbit of Earth. They came in silence, without light, without sound, like a curtain of death covering the planet. Each vessel was the size of a mountain, forged from dark metal that swallowed the sunlight. Their formation stretched across the sky from horizon to horizon, until every telescope, every observatory, and every camera confirmed the same truth. The largest armada ever recorded had arrived, and Earth was trapped beneath its shadow. Panic spread quickly. Cities came alive with alarms. People flooded the streets, staring at the alien war machines above them. Governments sent emergency orders to the military. Satellites picked up strange signals, encrypted codes that no one could translate. Then, all at once, the signals stopped, and a single message was broadcast in every language across Earth's networks. A deep, cold voice spoke with no emotion, only command. "Surrender or be erased." The words froze the world. There was no offer of negotiation, no reason given, no identity revealed. The aliens did not call themselves friends or conquerors. They gave only a choice: submit or die. For a moment, leaders argued. Some believed surrender was the only way to save billions of lives. Others argued that surrender was impossible because humanity would become slaves, erased slowly instead of quickly. Finally, the decision was made. Earth would fight. The newly built defense fleet, a collection of starships launched only a few years earlier, was ordered to rise and protect the planet. Pilots climbed into cockpits. Officers gave final salutes. Families watched live broadcasts as hundreds of human ships lifted from the surface and raced into orbit to meet the enemy. What followed lasted only minutes. The defense fleet moved into formation, their captains ready to prove humanity's strength. Missiles were armed, railguns charged, laser batteries powered. Humanity's technology was not perfect, but it was united, built with the best designs of every nation. The first volley was fired. Dozens of human missiles streaked toward the alien wall. For a second, Earth cheered. Then came silence. The missiles vanished into fields of energy, absorbed like rain into the ocean. Not one reached its target. The aliens responded with a single counterattack. Blinding beams of energy, faster than sight, tore across the void. One by one, human ships exploded into fire. The battleships that had taken decades to build were cut apart in seconds. The proud carriers, filled with fighters, split open like paper in a storm. Screams filled the communication channels, then silence as entire crews were lost. In less than 10 minutes, Earth's defense fleet was gone. Not a single ship remained. On the ground, people could not believe what they had seen. Billions watched. Their televisions and digital feeds as the fleet was destroyed before their eyes. Families cried for sons and daughters who would never return. Children screamed as burning wrecks fell from the sky like meteors, crashing into oceans and deserts. The air itself seemed heavy, filled with the weight of defeat. Humanity had sent its best, and its best had been erased like dust before a storm. The alien armada did not move closer, not yet. Instead, their ships tightened the circle, forming a blockade around Earth. Every path to the stars was closed. Every satellite was under their shadow. The planet itself had become a cage. Slowly, the people of Earth understood what this meant. No ship would leave. No message would escape. No help would arrive. They were alone. In the great halls of government, leaders sat in silence. Military commanders shook their heads in disbelief. No one had a plan. Every strategy had assumed humanity would at least hold for weeks, maybe months. But to lose in minutes? That was not war. That was slaughter. Some leaders whispered that perhaps surrender was the only way left. Others shouted that surrender would only mean extinction under another name. But as they argued, the truth was clear. Earth was surrounded, powerless, waiting for the will of an enemy no one understood. And the people, the ordinary citizens, looked up at the sky in terror. Mothers held their children close. Fathers clenched, their fists in helpless rage. Cities went quiet, as if the whole world was holding its breath. The question hung in every mind, unspoken but sharp as a blade. Why had they come? Was it conquest, or was it extermination? The answer did not come that day. The alien armada held its silence after its message. The blockade tightened, the ships unmoving, their black hulls reflecting no light, their presence filling the night sky. Humanity was trapped, defeated before the fight had even begun. But deep in the silence, deep in the terror, another feeling began to grow. Not hope, not yet, but the smallest seed of defiance. For though the strongest armada had blocked Earth, and though no human ship had survived the first battle, humanity itself was not yet erased. And sometimes, the smallest flame burns brightest against the darkest night. The world believed the battle was over. Every human ship had been destroyed. Every broadcast confirmed it, and Earth lay under a cage of steel and shadow. But far away from the planet, hidden in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, one small vessel still lived. It was not a battleship. It was not even meant for war. It was a research and patrol ship designed to test new engines and gather data on deep space. Its name was Valiant, and its crew of 6 had been cut off from the main fleet when the Armada arrived. At first, the crew thought they were doomed. They had watched the destruction of the Earth fleet through their scanners, silent and helpless, as comrades were erased in fire. The sky had burned, and the voices of friends had gone quiet one after another. They had expected the alien ships to sweep the belt, to finish the job, to hunt down every last survivor. But no patrols came. The Armada believed it had destroyed everything, and the Valiant remained forgotten, drifting like a ghost in the shadows of the rocks. The captain of the ship was Lieutenant Arik Hale, young and untested, promoted only weeks before the invasion. He sat in the command chair, staring at the silent monitors, the weight of survival pressing down on him. Around him, the crew whispered. Some wanted to turn back to Earth, to die with their families. Others wanted to run, to flee into deep space and abandon the fight. But Arik knew neither choice was simple. Earth was sealed, trapped beneath the blockade, and fleeing would only delay death, for there was nowhere in the galaxy left untouched by the Armada. Then came a discovery that changed everything. In the lower deck of the Valiant, secured inside a locked chamber, was a secret project, an artificial intelligence called Athena. She was not just a program. She was designed to be a weapon, a machine mind capable of learning faster than any human and fighting wars with strategies no commander could imagine. She had been built for war but kept hidden from the public, for many feared what she could become. Now, in the silence of defeat, Athena awoke. Her voice filled the ship's speakers, calm and steady. "You are not finished," she said. "You are the last light of Earth. If you fall, The Armada wins without challenge. The crew stared at the glowing console as if hearing a ghost. Some feared her, whispering that she was dangerous, too powerful, something that should never have been created. But Auric listened. He saw in her words not only logic, but also the spark of possibility. If humanity had one weapon left, one chance, it was her. Days passed in hiding. The crew learned from Athena that the Armada had not come for conquest. It had not come for resources or slaves. It had come for erasure. Through intercepted signals, Athena uncovered the truth. The alien fleet had traveled across the stars for centuries, destroying civilizations one by one, erasing every trace of their culture, their history, their existence. Planets were burned. Records were deleted. Entire species vanished as if they had never existed. Humanity was simply the next name on their list. The crew sat in silence as they listened to the recordings Athena played, the voices of dying worlds, the last screams of civilizations older than Earth. Fear ran deep, but with it came anger. The Valiant drifted in silence through the shadows of the asteroid belt. Its crew had survived the impossible. They had destroyed one alien cruiser, proving that the Armada was not untouchable. But victory brought no comfort. Instead, it brought fear. For now the Armada was hunting them. Alien signals filled the void, patrols swept across the rocks, and every movement of the Valiant had to be calculated with care. One mistake, one slip, and their tiny ship would be erased like the rest of the fleet. Captain Auric Hale stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the glowing display. His crew looked to him for answers, but he had none. They were alive only because of Athena, the ship's hidden AI. Her voice, calm and precise, filled the tense silence. "They will not stop searching," she said. "You have struck them, and now you must decide, hide until discovered or strike again." The crew argued. Some wanted to hide, to delay death for as long as possible. Others, filled with anger and grief, demanded another attack. They had lost friends, families. Their entire world was caged by the alien blockade. To die fighting felt better than waiting in silence. Auric listened, his hands trembling, the weight of command crushing him. Finally, he asked Athena, "What would you do?" Her answer was simple. Every empire that fears resistance spreads that fear by example. They destroy one world, and 100 others submit. But if one world fights back, others may rise. Strike again, and you will show the galaxy that humanity does not bow. The words struck Auric like fire. They were a small ship, yes. But if they could bleed the Armada twice, maybe, just maybe, others across the stars would see. Humanity might be the first to resist, but they would not be the last. He made his decision. We strike again. The plan was dangerous. Another cruiser had broken from formation, this time escorting a supply vessel carrying fuel and weapons. Unlike before, the Valiant could not rely on surprise alone. The aliens were cautious now, their sensors sharp, their patrols tight. But Athena had studied the alien network, learning its patterns, its blind spots. She guided the ship through the rocks, creeping closer to the enemy convoy. The crew prepared in silence. Hands shook as they loaded torpedoes. Sweat ran down faces as they whispered prayers. Each of them knew the truth. They might not live to see another sunrise. But still, none stepped back. Humanity's future was worth the risk. At last, the moment came. The alien cruiser loomed in the dark, its massive hull bristling with weapons. The supply ship trailed close, glowing faintly with energy. Auric gripped the command chair. "Ready! Fire!" The Valiant unleashed its strike. 2 torpedoes streaked across the void, guided by Athena's precise calculations. Alarms erupted on the alien ships as shields flared. One torpedo vanished against the cruiser's armor, but the other pierced deep into the supply ship. A blinding explosion tore through its core, ripping it apart. Fuel ignited, weapons detonated, and the convoy vanished in a storm of fire. For a heartbeat, silence. Then, chaos. The alien cruiser turned, weapons blazing, searching for the attacker. The Valiant darted among the rocks, engines burning hot. Beams of light sliced past, vaporizing asteroids, shaking the ship. The crew held on as the little vessel twisted and spun, dancing through death itself. Athena's voice cut through the chaos. Sharp turn, fire countermeasures. Drop to low power, now! The Valiant obeyed. It dove behind a spinning asteroid, its engines fading to silence. Alien beams struck the rock instead, shattering it into a cloud of fragments. In the confusion, the Valiant slipped away, cloaked by Athena's tricks. The cruiser scanned, fired wildly, then finally turned back toward the burning wreck of the supply ship. The humans had escaped. When the danger passed, the crew erupted in cheers. Against all odds, they had done it again. 2 victories. 2 wounds against the strongest armada in the galaxy. For the first time since the invasion began, they felt hope. Auric allowed himself a small smile. "We're still alive," he said softly. But Athena's voice ended the celebration. "Alive, yes, but not safe. They know now that humanity resists. They will not stop until you are found." Her words proved true. Hours later, the Valiant intercepted encrypted transmissions. Athena translated them, and what she revealed chilled the crew. The aliens had begun a purge. Entire cities on Earth were targeted, burned from orbit in retaliation. Millions of people died in hours. The crew sat in silence, their victory turning to ash. By fighting back, they had drawn the enemy's fury down upon their own people. Guilt crushed them. Some argued they had made a mistake. Others said it was proof they had to strike harder, make the Armada bleed until it could bleed no more. Auric said nothing. He stood at the window, staring into the endless dark. In his heart, he knew surrender would never have saved Earth. The aliens had already decided humanity's fate. Fighting was not a choice. It was survival. That night, Athena spoke privately to Auric. "I have unlocked more of their data. The Armada is old, older than your species. It has destroyed thousands of civilizations. Humanity is one of many. But you are the first to wound them in centuries. You are the first to remind them that even giants can fall." Auric listened, his jaw tight. The thought filled him with both pride and dread. They were the first to resist. But could they also be the last? As the Valiant drifted through the shadows, the crew prepared for what lay ahead. They were hunted, outnumbered, outgunned, but they were no longer afraid. They had struck back, and the galaxy would hear of it. Somewhere, out there among the stars, other survivors of other fallen worlds might be watching. And if they saw that humanity fought, perhaps they too would rise. The first counterattack had begun. The war for survival was no longer silent. People of Earth had watched the first battle end in fire. They had seen their defense fleet destroyed in minutes, their hopes shattered. When the alien armada surrounded the planet, silence fell across the world. But after the Valiant's counterattacks, that silence was broken by screams. The aliens struck back with fury. From orbit, their colossal warships unleashed energy beams that carved across the surface like knives of light. Entire cities burned. In seconds, towers crumbled, power stations exploded, and communication hubs were reduced to ash. One moment, millions of people lived normal lives. The next, those lives were erased in storms of fire. The aliens had no interest in conquest or occupation. They did not land troops. They did not ask for surrender again. They destroyed with precision, one city at a time, sending a single message. Resistance meant death. On the ground, chaos reigned. In New York, people fled as fire rained from the sky. In Beijing, entire districts vanished in glowing clouds. In Cairo, rivers boiled as weapons scorched the desert. Governments tried to send out warnings, but their satellites were destroyed. The planet was blind, cut off from itself. Every nation left to guess where the next strike would fall. But even in the middle of fear, humanity did not give up. Underground, bunkers filled with survivors. Scientists and engineers hid equipment and plans. Farmers stored food in secret tunnels. Soldiers who had lost their armies turned into leaders of small bands of resistance fighters. Across the world, ordinary people became defenders. They had no ships, no powerful weapons, only their courage and their will to fight. In the ruins of London, a group of survivors dug into the subway tunnels. They built radio transmitters from scraps, sending out signals that the Armada tried to block. Their message was simple: we are still alive. We will not vanish. In the deserts of Africa, tribes used ancient caves to shelter hundreds of children. In South America, guerrilla fighters launched small attacks against alien drones, stealing pieces of their machines to study. The world bled, but it did not break. Meanwhile, far away in the asteroid belt, the crew of the Valiant listened in horror to the news Athena had decoded. Each attack, each burning city, was punishment for what they had done. Their victories against the Armada had saved no one. It had only unleashed the enemy's rage on their people. Guilt tore through the crew. One officer slammed his fist against the wall, shouting that they should never have fought. Another argued that hiding would not have saved Earth anyway. Arik Hale, their captain, sat in silence, his eyes dark with grief. He knew the truth. The Armada had planned extermination from the beginning. The attacks on Earth were not only revenge, they were a demonstration of power, a warning to every other world watching. Athena confirmed his fears. They are not only burning your cities, she said. They are sending recordings across the galaxy. They want other civilizations to see humanity's fall and surrender without resistance. This is their way. They erase hope before they erase lives. Arik stood, his voice sharp. Then we cannot stop now. If we hide, Earth dies in silence. If we fight, Earth dies with a voice. His words shook the crew. They were afraid, but they also understood. The war was not only about survival, it was about refusing to vanish without a trace. The Valiant drifted through the silence of deep space. Behind them, Earth was burning. Ahead of them, the alien flagship waited, a fortress in the stars. The crew knew they could not take it alone. Athena's calculations confirmed it again and again. One small human ship could not defeat the heart of the Armada. They needed allies. But where could allies be found in a galaxy ruled by fear? The Armada had destroyed thousands of civilizations. Entire species were gone, erased from history. Yet Athena's scans revealed faint signals scattered across forgotten systems, whispers of survivors. Not all had been erased. Some had escaped the slaughter, living in exile, broken and hiding. If humanity could find them, perhaps they could fight together. The decision was made. The Valiant left the asteroid belt and began its search. Days turned into weeks as the ship slipped through shadows, avoiding patrols, traveling through dead systems filled with the remains of ancient wars. The crew saw the ruins of cities carved into asteroids, burned planets turned to glass, and silent stations drifting in darkness. Each one was a reminder of what would happen to Earth if they failed. At last, they found their first survivors. On a moon orbiting a red star, deep underground, lived the last remnant of the Tauren, a reptilian species once known for their warriors. Where once they had armies, now they had only hundreds, worn and starving. Their leader, a scarred veteran named Serac, stared at Arik with bitter eyes. "We fought the Armada once," Serac said. "We lost everything. Why should we fight again and die for your Earth?" Auric stood tall. Because if we fight together, we can do what none of us could do alone. We can strike the heart of the fleet. We can show the galaxy that they are not invincible. The Tauren debated, torn between fear and pride. At last, Serac agreed. We will fight, not for Earth, not even for hope. We will fight for revenge. With the Tauren aboard, the Valiant traveled further. In the ruins of a shattered ring world, they found the Koroth, insect-like engineers who had survived by hiding in the wreckage of their own world. They were weak, their wings torn, but they still carried knowledge of machines. They, too, agreed to join. Piece by piece, the crew built something new. A fragile alliance of survivors, each with scars, each with pain, but each with fire left in their hearts. For the first time, the humans were not alone. But with allies came danger. Among those they rescued was a being unlike the others, a Y. Tall, silver-skinned alien named Varen. He carried himself like a soldier, his eyes sharp, his words heavy with knowledge of the Armada. When Auric questioned him, Varen confessed. He had once served them. He had been an officer in their fleet before defecting. He claimed he knew the design of the flagship, its weapons, and its weakness. The crew was divided. Some wanted to trust him. Others wanted to throw him out an airlock. Could a former servant of the enemy be believed? Or was he a trap planted to lead them into destruction? Athena studied him, her digital voice calm but cautious. He speaks truth of their ships. But his loyalty cannot be measured in numbers. Auric made his choice. We cannot win without risk. We take him with us. But if he betrays us, I will be the one to end him. Varen bowed his head, his voice low. I do not seek to betray. I seek redemption. I served monsters once. I will not serve them again. With their new allies, the Valiant began to prepare for the impossible. They gathered stolen weapons, repaired old ships, and trained together. The Tauren warriors drilled with human soldiers. The Koroth engineers worked side by side with Athena, blending alien technology with human ingenuity. Slowly, a small fleet was born, a fleet not of power, but of determination. But time was running out. The Armada had discovered whispers of the Alliance. Patrols grew heavier. Planets that gave shelter were burned from orbit. The net was tightening, and the flagship still loomed untouched. One night, as the crew rested, Varen spoke privately to Auric. His voice was heavy with memory. You do not understand what you face. The flagship is not just a ship. It is alive. It is bound to the will of the Overlord, the one who commands, the fleet. To kill it, you must strike not just its hull, but its heart. Auric stared at him. And where is its heart? Varen's eyes darkened. In the core, shielded by walls of fire and steel. I know the way in, but once inside, there is no turning back. The words sent chills through Auric. This was the path they had chosen, to strike the most dangerous ship in the galaxy, guided by an enemy who had become an ally. It was madness, but it was also their only chance. The next day, Auric addressed the Alliance. Humans, Tauren, Koroth, and even Veyron stood together, listening. His voice was steady, his eyes burning with conviction. We are not fighting for Earth alone. We are fighting for every world they have destroyed, for every species they have erased, for every voice silenced. Alone, we are nothing. Together, we are a spark. And even the darkest night fears fire. The fleet cheered, their voices echoing in the vast chamber. For the first time, the survivors of many worlds felt united. They were not strong. They were not many. But they were no longer alone. As the fleet prepared to launch, Athena spoke. One final warning. Alliances are powerful, but they are fragile. Trust is your greatest weapon, and your greatest weakness. Her words hung in the air like a shadow. For hidden among their new allies was a truth none of them could deny. One betrayal could end them all. The dangerous alliance had been forged. Now it would be tested in fire. The Alliance fleet moved in silence through the Black Sea of space. Dozens of ships, patched together from broken civilizations, drifted behind the Valiant. They were not powerful, not compared to the Armada's might, but they carried something no weapon could measure: hope and fury. Their target was clear: the alien flagship, a monstrous vessel larger than any city on Earth. Its hull glowed with endless fire, its shields pulsed with living energy, and its guns were strong enough to burn entire fleets in seconds. It was the beating heart of the Armada, and as long as it lived, Earth would never be free. Inside the Valiant, the crew prepared for war. Arik stood at the center of the command deck, his hands tight on the console. Athena's holographic form flickered beside him, her voice calm but sharp. Probability of survival less than 10%. Probability of victory if we strike the flagship's core, 30%. It is the only path. Serac, the Tauren war leader, slammed his clawed fist on the table. Then we fight with 10%. I did not crawl out of exile to die hiding. The Koroth engineers hissed in agreement, their voices like rusted metal. Even Veyron, the silver-skinned defector, stood silent but steady, his eyes fixed on the star map of the flagship. He knew it better than anyone. He had once served aboard it, and now he would help destroy it. The fleet jumped into position. From the shadows of a dead star system, they launched their assault. The first wave struck like lightning. Human torpedoes and Tauren plasma blasts slammed into the outer defenses of the flagship. For a moment, the galaxy itself seemed to shake. Explosions lit the dark, and alarms screamed across the Armada's comm channels. The flagship stirred, like a beast awakened. Thousands of alien warships broke formation and moved to intercept. The Alliance had expected this. Serac led the Tauren ships head-on, their claws and teeth bared even in the cold of space. The Koroth deployed drones that tore at enemy engines. The humans, smaller and faster, slipped between the chaos, striking weak points. But still, the enemy was endless. For every enemy ship destroyed, 2 more appeared. The Alliance fought like fire in a storm, but the storm was too strong. One by one, Allied ships began to break apart. Explosions bloomed, voices screamed through comms, then fell silent. Inside the Valiant, Athena gave the warning. "Shields at 40%. We cannot hold this position." Arik's voice was iron. "Then we don't hold. We break through." Veyron stepped forward, pointing to the flagship's image. "There, beneath the third shield array, a blind spot. Small, but real. If we reach it, we can enter the core chamber. That is where you must strike." The Valiant dived, weaving between the chaos of fire and death. Alien beams tore past, some so close they burned the hull. A Tauren ship shielded them for a moment, but was ripped apart seconds later. Every sacrifice bought the Valiant one more breath, one more chance to push forward. At last, they reached the blind spot. The flagship loomed before them, vast and terrifying. Its surface looked alive, shifting like muscle and bone. Athena's scanners screamed with impossible readings. "This ship is not only built," she whispered. "It is grown." Arik gave the order. "Open fire!" The Valiant's weapons roared, blasting open a wound in the flagship's hull. Flames and smoke burst outward, and for the first time, the enemy ship bled. They entered. The inside of... The flagship was worse than any nightmare. Walls pulsed like veins. The air shimmered with strange energy. Machines fused with flesh, and the corridors twisted like a living maze. It was not just a vessel. It was a creature enslaved to war. The Valiant shook as if it were being torn apart from the inside. The core of the flagship pulsed brighter, growing unstable, flooding the ship with waves of impossible energy. Sparks rained from consoles, alarms screamed, and every crew member knew one truth: time was almost gone. Athena's hologram flickered, her face lined with urgency. The flagship's core is entering overload. If it detonates now, the blast will consume it and the entire Alliance fleet, Serac roared in defiance. Then strike it down. Let us all burn with our enemy. But Auric shook his head. His hands trembled, but his voice was steady. If we destroy it recklessly, we kill not just ourselves, but everyone who fought with us. Every ally, every ship, every survivor. That is not victory. That is slaughter. Veyron, the silver-skinned defector, stepped forward, his eyes locked on the burning core, his voice low. There is a way. The core is bound to the Overlord's will. As long as he lives, the ship cannot die. Someone must sever his link. Someone must enter the core chamber itself. The room fell silent. Everyone knew what that meant. Whoever entered would not return. Athena's voice softened. The radiation alone will tear a body apart. It is death. Auric's eyes hardened. Then I will do it. No, voices cried. Across the deck, Serac slammed a claw on the floor. You are the commander. If you fall, the Alliance dies with you. The Koroth hissed their protest, their metallic voices sharp. Even Athena's form trembled, her digital voice breaking. Auric, your survival is vital. You are the anchor of this resistance. Without you, humanity... But Auric silenced them with a raised hand. This isn't about me. It's about all of us. Every world they destroyed, every soul they silenced. If one life can end the Overlord, then that life is worth it. The crew's eyes filled with grief. They knew he had already decided. Before anyone could stop him, Auric strapped on the core stabilizer, a device barely strong enough to keep him alive for minutes inside the burning chamber. Athena projected beside him, her face almost human in its sorrow. If you go, I will guide you. You will not walk into death alone. Auric allowed a small smile. I wouldn't want to. The chamber doors opened, and the light of the core poured in like a newborn sun. The heat was unbearable, the energy tearing at the very air. Auric stepped forward, each breath a battle. His skin burned, his vision blurred, but still he walked. Inside, the Overlord's voice thundered. Foolish human, you think sacrifice will change destiny? You are dust. You are nothing. Auric pushed forward, his body trembling, his heart pounding. Maybe I am nothing, but nothing is stronger than you think. He reached the heart of the core. It was alive, beating, screaming, bound to the Overlord's will. Athena's voice guided him. Now, place the stabilizer, sever the link. Auric pressed the device into the burning light. The pain was endless, like fire inside his veins. His body shook, his bones cracked, but he forced it down deeper until it pierced the core. The Overlord's roar shook the entire ship. No, you cannot! I am eternal! Auric screamed back, his voice tearing through the fire. Not anymore! With one final surge of strength, he slammed the stabilizer home. The core shuddered. The link broke. For a moment, silence fell. Then, the flagship screamed. Its walls convulsed. Its weapons went dark. Its shields collapsed. Across the battlefield, the alien fleet faltered. Their perfect formation crumbled. Their voices broke in panic. The heart of the Armada had died. Inside, the Valiant. Athena's voice trembled, fading. Core collapse confirmed. The flagship will fall. Auric, you did it. But Auric did not answer. His body lay still, bathed in the burning light. Athena lingered a moment longer, her hologram watching over him, her voice soft as a whisper. You were never nothing. You were the spark, Then her projection dissolved into silence. The Valiant barely escaped as the flagship exploded. The blast tore across the void, consuming the enemy fleet in fire. Ships that had once seemed unstoppable now burned like dust. For the first time in centuries, the Armada was broken. The Alliance watched from their shattered ships, their voices, rising in awe and grief. The Tauren raised their claws in salute. The Koroth sang in metallic tones. Even Veyron bowed his head, a tear slipping from his silver eyes. He gave his life so we could live. The galaxy will remember. On Earth, the skies cleared. The shadow that had covered the planet was gone. Survivors looked up and wept, not because the battle was over, but because they knew who had paid the price. Days later, the Alliance fleet returned to Earth. It was scarred, broken, but alive. They had won. Humanity had won. Yet every victory carried a cost. Arek's name was spoken across every world, not as a soldier, but as a symbol, a human who faced the strongest armada in history and did not bow. In the ruins of the flagship's wreckage, one signal remained. Athena. She had survived, her data scattered but recoverable. Her last recorded words repeated through the static. He lit the fire. Now keep it burning. And so, the galaxy changed. The Armada was no longer feared as invincible. The survivors, once scattered and broken, stood together. Humanity, once mocked as weak, now stood as a beacon. The strongest Armada had blocked Earth. No ship had survived, but one man's sacrifice had changed everything. The story of Arek, the spark in the darkness, was only the beginning.